We're surrounded by people, yet loneliness is epidemic. We flit from relationship to relationship, party to party, event to event, desperately avoiding the quiet within. But here's the harsh truth. Those who don't learn to be self-sufficient become utterly reliant on others, a dependence that carries a crippling cost. Forced isolation, relentless anxiety, toxic relationships, and, in severe cases, crippling depression are the grim price. Our world is overflowing with people who've never truly known themselves, and the outcome, often tragic. But stick with me, because I'll show you how Stoic philosophy can transform loneliness from a curse into your greatest strength. Mastering solitude builds unshakable inner strength, emotional independence, mental clarity, and profound peace. My name is Adriano, and I've been a Stoic enthusiast for over a decade. My greatest growth has blossomed during my loneliest periods. Stoicism taught me that solitude isn't punishment, it's an opportunity, a chance for inner growth, a reconnection with reason, and ultimately, freedom. How often have you felt the gnawing emptiness despite being surrounded by people? Like something essential is missing even in a crowd? The reality is most people fear silence. They can't endure 5 minutes alone without their phones. And the issue isn't just tech addiction, it's the terror of confronting their own minds. Seneca wrote, "The company of others is beneficial, but solitude with oneself is indispensable." What does that mean today? It means until you find peace in your own company, any other company is merely a temporary fix. Notice how some people jump from one relationship to the next, or constantly need to be at parties in groups always on the go because solitude breeds anguish. It's no coincidence. Our brains are wired to avoid the discomfort of internal silence, and that's holding you back. Solitude isn't isolation, it's empowerment. By learning self-sufficiency, you learn to listen to yourself, recognizing your thoughts, identifying patterns, and understanding your reactions. This is where true transformation begins. Without this introspection, you react automatically, like a robot, and the consequences are real. Harvard research links an inability to handle internal silence to anxiety, emotional dependence, and impulsivity. Emotionally unstable individuals often haven't paused to connect with themselves. The terrifying cost? Toxic relationships accepted out of fear, rash decisions fueled by unbearable silence, constant distractions diverting you from your goals. This hampered many remarkable figures. Amy Winehouse, for example, possessed a breathtaking voice, yet under the spotlight found no inner peace. Unresolved loneliness, vices as escape, abusive relationships as anesthesia, all corroded her most precious assets, clarity and authenticity. She wasn't alone. She was lost within herself. Conversely, consider Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, leader of an empire and profoundly connected to silence. He wrote to himself, practiced self-reflection, and famously stated, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." No wonder he was admired not just as an emperor, but as a human being. He knew himself, and those who know themselves are not easily swayed. In today's world, embracing solitude is a superpower. It's in that quiet space that you find clarity for tough decisions, discover your true priorities, and cultivate genuine self-confidence, the kind that doesn't hinge on external validation. This isn't about becoming a hermit, but strengthening your foundation so that when you're with others, you don't lose yourself. Start small. Instead of grabbing your phone the first 5 minutes of the day, sit in silence. Observe your thoughts. Instead of accepting every invitation to avoid being alone, reserve an evening for self-reflection. Read, write, contemplate. It's in this self-encounter that you begin to understand your strengths and weaknesses. People who embrace solitude become emotionally stable, more creative, and less susceptible to manipulation. They don't fall prey to neediness. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. Why? Because they've found within themselves what many desperately seek externally. The question is, can you sit in silence with yourself without escaping? Or are you constantly seeking distractions to avoid confronting your inner world? Your answer could be a life-altering turning point. Most people try to fill their internal void with external distractions, but they fail to realize that the further they stray from themselves, the more dependent they become on others' opinions. And therein lies the danger. Those who can't be alone mold themselves to please. Bosses, partners, friends, even strangers on social media. Notice how some people constantly seek validation, unable to decide without consulting others? This isn't caution, it's a lack of emotional independence. Epictetus said, "If you want to be free, then learn to be indifferent to what doesn't depend on you." And that includes others' opinions, social acceptance, and external approval. Failing to embrace solitude makes you an invisible prisoner, living to please, to maintain an image, to conform. It's a fast track to frustration. How many people do you know chose a career path solely for its acceptability or security? How many remain in relationships out of fear of judgment, loneliness, or criticism? Columbia University research suggests nearly 60% of young adults make major life decisions based on fear of rejection, not self-knowledge. That means more than half are living someone else's life. Dependence on external validation is a socially accepted, emotionally destructive addiction. Social media showcases this constantly. People smiling in photos masking exhaustion, couples posting declarations while barely acknowledging each other daily, professionals flaunting success while battling identity crises. It's all because they lack the courage to look inward, to pause, to listen. This only happens when one learns solitude, not as punishment but as discipline. The silence of solitude reveals truths that the noise of the crowd obscures. One such truth: you don't need everyone's approval, you need your own. When you're comfortable with solitude, you discern what you truly desire, what truly matters. Most importantly, you realize how much you've been manipulated by others' expectations. This applies even to those who've seemingly achieved everything. Consider Robin Williams, a comedic genius, award-winning, adored. Yet internally, he battled profound conflict. He projected an image of joy while grappling with serious mental health issues and a persistent emptiness. The pressure to meet external expectations, coupled with a lack of genuine self-reflection, contributed to his downfall. In stark contrast, consider Keanu Reeves, one of Hollywood's most respected yet discreet and introspective actors. He's endured personal tragedies and loss yet never hid his pain with ostentation. He stepped away from the spotlight when needed, maintaining humility, and remains admired for his serene authenticity. Keanu doesn't live to please. Therefore, he inspires. Want freedom? Stop trying to be what others expect. True freedom begins when you cease begging for acceptance and live authentically. This only happens when you know yourself, and you only know yourself when you're alone. Solitude forces you to confront insecurities, reflect on your values, and question your patterns. It's not easy, but it's liberating. As you strengthen internally, the need for approval fades. You cease being a puppet and become a whole, conscious, authentic human being. The question remains: how many life choices were based on your desires, and how many were made to avoid displeasing others? Have you allowed yourself to hear your voice, or are you still trying to fit into others' expectations? The moment you break free, everything changes. You begin to live your life not through others' eyes. Solitude teaches a rare lesson. Inner peace isn't external, it's internal. And silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Notice the constant noise: headphones blasting, phone notifications, superficial conversations, mounting commitments. This fuels a restless mind that never stops, never rests. When silence descends, many panic, because in silence, you hear yourself. And that's terrifying. Seneca said, "He who is at peace with himself lives in peace with the world." But this peace doesn't come from distractions, it comes from confrontation. Sit with yourself, look inward, and address what's truly there: your anxieties, fears, doubts. Solitude confronts you with the parts of yourself you've suppressed for years. Transformation emerges from this confrontation. Harvard research led by Matthew Killingsworth found people spend nearly 50% of their time thinking about something other than what they're doing, and the more this happens, the lower their reported happiness. A restless mind, incapable of presence, is a major cause of dissatisfaction. How will you know yourself if you don't pause to listen to your feelings? How will you understand your emotions if you never give yourself space to feel them? Voluntary solitude isn't isolation, it's profound connection. When embraced, clarity emerges. You see yourself more clearly. What harms you, what strengthens you, what's noise, and what's truth. Amy Winehouse tragically never found this pause. Despite extraordinary talent, fame, and global acclaim, she lived in constant noise. Abusive relationships, media pressure, industry expectations, and her inner demons. There was no time or space for healing, introspection, or self-understanding. The price was her life. Haruki Murakami, known for his reclusive routine and disciplined silence, shows the opposite. He wakes early, runs long distances alone, writes for hours in absolute silence. This introspective life didn't isolate him. It gave him the clarity and depth to create works touching millions. He stated that solitude is a source of creative and emotional strength. The world won't stop for you to understand yourself. You must choose to stop, to silence external noise to hear your inner voice. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. But that discomfort is a gift, showing where your wounds lie, where your confusion resides, and where healing begins. Many seek peace in the wrong places: travel, shopping, distractions. Lasting peace isn't found, it's built, starting with daily solitude, time for breathing, reflection, writing, prayer, meditation. This space is essential. Without it, you live on autopilot, directionless. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were alone and felt peace, not discomfort or impatience? If you still rely on noise, it signals wounds. The silence is trying to reveal. When you accept this call, your mind changes, your heart calms, and you discover who you truly are. Solitude teaches a lesson few want to learn: self-responsibility. In the silence of solitude, there's nowhere to escape. You face the most honest mirror. Where excuses fail, there's no one to blame, no one to justify your shortcomings. Only you, and that's where power is born. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." Solitude requires effort, maturity, and ceasing to outsource your happiness. Notice how many blame others for their lives. I'm this way because of my father. If my partner were different, I'd be better. If my boss recognized me, I'd be happier. But as long as your peace rests in someone else's hands, you'll never have control. Solitude restores that control. When you distance yourself from external noise and influences, you see your role in your own suffering, and that you can also participate in your healing. Charlie Sheen's life is a stark example. Years of excess, addiction, destructive relationships, and irresponsible behavior. When things went wrong, there was always someone or something to blame: the press, colleagues, the pressure of success. But there was never a pause for introspection and taking responsibility. The result was a devastating public downfall, lost contracts, damaged health, and a ruined reputation. There was no time for reflection, internal adjustment, or real responsibility. In contrast, Naval Ravikant, a prominent entrepreneur and writer, champions conscious solitude for clarity, growth, and freedom. He openly discusses controlling one's mind, questioning patterns, and using solitude for self-improvement, meditation, deep reading, critical analysis of decisions. Such practices transform how you behave in the world. You stop reacting and start acting. The Personality and Social Psychology Review shows that those with a stronger sense of self-responsibility have significantly higher well-being and personal success. This is no coincidence. When you take charge of your life, even adversity shifts. Challenges replace uncontrollable monsters. This is only possible when you create space for internal dialogue, distance yourself from opinions, demands, and influences, and ask, what's others' fault and what's my responsibility? This honest question changes everything, freeing you from victimhood and placing you in the protagonist's role. Yes, it's daunting. It's easier to play the victim than to act. Stoicism isn't about ease. It's about freedom. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. While you point fingers, you remain weak. When you say, "This is mine and I'll solve it," you truly grow strong. Want growth, better relationships, and inner peace? Start by taking control of what's within your power, including silence and solitude. It's in this space where no one can applaud or blame that maturity blossoms. Once you experience the freedom of self-responsibility, there's no turning back. You'll never again accept being a hostage to the world. When you embrace solitude, you build an inner fortress, a secure space independent of the external world. This is the opposite of what most experience today. People are so accustomed to seeking external validation that solitude brings despair. They feel invisible, disposable, insufficient. Stoicism teaches that true security doesn't come from applause, likes, or promises. It comes from the strength of your character. Seneca wrote, "The soul should be invincible, ready to face anything and everything, imperturbable amid disorder." You don't develop this invincible soul surrounded by distractions. You don't strengthen emotionally by escaping into empty conversations, superficial relationships, or numbing screens. True strength emerges when you face your thoughts and choose not to flee. How often have you felt empty when your phone died? Anguish on a Sunday afternoon with no one to talk to? This feeling of abandonment isn't about lack of company. It's about lack of internal structure. If you don't build your own foundation, any wind can knock you down. Rejection becomes tragedy. Silence, a crisis. When you embrace solitude and use that time for self-discovery and nurturing good habits, your presence begins to fill you, and no one else is responsible for that but you. Amy Winehouse is a powerful example, a brilliant artist but deeply reliant on external approval. She couldn't handle silence, internal pressures, or the loneliness of fame. Lacking emotional structure, she sought escape in vices, tumultuous relationships, and excess. Amy was brilliant but emotionally fragile, and that fragility, combined with a lack of internal support, cost her life. This is serious. If you don't care for your mind and solitude, the world can swallow you no matter how outwardly brilliant you are. Conversely, consider Henry David Thoreau, who wrote Walden, a journal about his 2 years of self-imposed isolation in the woods. Stepping away from the noise wasn't about rejecting the world. It was about a deep dive into self. It was about realizing that solitude wasn't emptiness, but the richest connection to what truly matters. The outcome? An unparalleled understanding of purpose-driven living, marked by simplicity and unshakable independence. This journey transforms the fragile into the resolute, a fact backed by science. University of Buffalo research shows that intentional introspection boosts creativity, emotional balance, and emotional intelligence. So, it's not isolation, it's self-cultivation, a powerful tool for navigating the world with greater ease. Inner strength renders criticism impotent, comparison irrelevant, and rejection inconsequential. You know yourself completely. Solitude becomes your crucible, forging wholeness. This changes everything. External validation becomes unnecessary. You no longer crave approval. You choose connections based on genuine affinity, not need. You don't settle for less to avoid loneliness. Solitude is a refuge, a privilege, a place to recharge. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, people look for retreats, for mountains, seashores, deserts, but there is no need to go anywhere. Your own self is your own refuge. The key is not escaping the world to find peace, but creating that inner sanctuary. It starts with embracing silence, not fearing it, using it to build your resilience. So when the world feels overwhelming, chaotic, and no one seems to understand, instead of running, turn inward. Because if you've mastered solitude, you're not vulnerable, you're prepared. That preparedness is the difference between fragility and strength, between lost and centered, reactive and leadership. It all begins with silencing the external and listening to the inner voice. To be alone is to be strong. By mastering the art of quiet contemplation, you become emotionally independent, a powerful asset in a world obsessed with filling voids. The advantage of embarking on this journey now is that you build a solid foundation, a resilience that shrugs off rejection, criticism, or temporary loneliness. You become less reactive, more centered, less dependent, more complete. Ready to deepen your understanding? The next step is just a click away. The video on screen will take you further into the wisdom of Stoicism, making you a little bit better than you are right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.